Alexandria, Egypt, the year 34 BC. Mark Antony and Cleopatra sit on golden thrones, dressed as gods, distributing the entire Eastern Mediterranean among their children. This is the exact moment Alexandria almost replaces Rome as the capital of the world. I'm Arthur, and today we're reconstructing the most sophisticated city of the ancient world at its absolute peak. A universal city of 600,000 people, a lighthouse visible 50 kilometers out to sea, a library holding all human knowledge, and engineers building steam engines 1,800 years before the Industrial Revolution. We're going to walk streets where East met West and discover how this marvel didn't die from conquest, but the slow poison of people who feared knowledge they couldn't control. April 331 BC. Alexander the Great stands on a narrow strip between the Mediterranean and Lake Maryat. He's just conquered Persia, and he's about to found a city that will outlast his empire by 1,000 years. He orders his architect, Dinocrates of Rhodes, to design the city, but Alexander never sees his masterpiece completed. Dinocrates designs according to Hippodamian principles, a perfect grid. The main avenue, the Canopic Way, runs east-west for 5 kilometers, wide enough for 8 chariots abreast. In May 331 BC, weeks after founding Alexandria, he marches east. He dies in Babylon in 323 BC, aged 32, never having returned. His general, Ptolemy, now ruling Egypt, makes a calculated move. He intercepts Alexander's funeral procession and brings the body to a magnificent tomb at the city's heart. This isn't grief, it's political genius. Whoever possesses Alexander's body possesses legitimacy, turning Alexandria into the ultimate pilgrimage site of the ancient world. Ptolemy I Soter, the savior, begins construction. The Heptastadion, a massive causeway 1.2 kilometers long, connecting mainland to Pharos Island, creating 2 harbors, the Great Harbor to the east and the Eunostos Harbor west. This transforms Alexandria into the Mediterranean's premier port. But Ptolemy wants more than commerce. He wants to make Alexandria the intellectual capital of the world. He proposes something audacious, a Mouseion, a temple to the Muses as a research institution, and attached to it a library that would collect all human knowledge. The seed is planted. Alexander never saw his city, but from his tomb, a metropolis would rise that would dwarf anything the Greek world had imagined. Before we continue, I want to take a moment to thank the amazing channel members featured on the screen right now. If you'd like to support the channel, consider hitting the join button below. Now, let's get back to the story. By the reign of Ptolemy II, Philadelphus, Alexandria has become the second largest city in the ancient world. Population 500,000 to 600,000. Only Rome is larger. But Alexandria isn't just large, it's diverse, deliberately, structurally, and explosively so. The city is divided into 3 distinct ethnic quarters, each with its own character, its own governance, its own tensions. The Bruchium, the royal quarter, occupies the northeast section along the waterfront. This is where Greeks live, where the Ptolemaic palace complex sprawls across acres of marble columns and manicured gardens. The Mouseion and library are here, the gymnasium, the theater. Only Greeks hold full citizenship. Only Greeks participate in governance. The Ptolemies, despite ruling Egypt for 3 centuries, speak Greek, worship Greek gods, and deliberately maintain Hellenistic culture to exclude non-Greeks from power.
The Jewish quarter occupies the northeast Delta district. Alexandria hosts one of the largest Jewish communities in the ancient world, perhaps 100,000 people. They have significant autonomy, governed by an ethnarch and their own council of elders. The community is prosperous, integrated in trade networks, and produces the Septuagint, the first Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, making Jewish scripture accessible to the Hellenistic world. The Egyptian quarter, called Rakotis, occupies the southwest. This is where native Egyptians live, the people who actually built this land, whose civilization stretches back 3,000 years. They have no citizenship rights, no political power. They perform manual labor, work the docks, serve in Greek households. The cultural apartheid is deliberate. The Ptolemies maintain Greek dominance through systematic exclusion. This is the paradox of Alexandria, universal in ambition, segregated in practice. But what makes Alexandria extraordinary isn't just diversity, it's engineering. Rising from Pharos Island, visible from every point in the city and 50 kilometers out to sea, stands one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The Pharos Lighthouse, commissioned by Ptolemy I and completed under Ptolemy II around 247 BC, redefines what humans can build. The architect Sostratus of Cnidus designs a 3-tiered tower, a massive square base to withstand Mediterranean waves, an octagonal middle section, and a cylindrical top housing the beacon. Height estimates vary, somewhere between 100 and 150 meters, making it among the tallest structures on Earth. White marble blocks are fitted with such precision they seem to glow. But the real innovation is structural. The blocks are joined with molten lead poured into channels between the stones, creating flexibility that allows the tower to sway slightly in earthquakes rather than crack. At night, a massive fire burns at the top, visible from approaching ships. During the day, a concave bronze mirror reflects sunlight, creating a beam that guides navigation. Some ancient sources claim the mirror was powerful enough to set enemy ships on fire, though this is likely exaggeration. Alexandria has replaced Tyre as the Mediterranean's premier trading hub. The great harbor buzzes with a mix of Greek, Egyptian, Aramaic, and Latin as merchants trade silk from the Far East, ivory from Africa, and grain from the Nile Delta. As the blinding white marble of the Pharos looms above, just steps away in the gardens of the library, scholars are paid by the royal treasury to do nothing but think, research, and argue. The city thrives on difference, but difference without tolerance is a powder keg, and history is about to light the fuse.
The Mouseion isn't just a library. It's the ancient world's first true research university. Founded around 305 BC by Ptolemy I on the advice of Demetrius of Phaleron, the Mouseion is dedicated to the 9 muses, goddesses of arts and sciences. It's a temple, yes, but also a community of scholars given something unprecedented: salaries, free housing, tax exemptions, and the freedom to pursue knowledge without obligation to teach or produce immediate practical results. The Library of Alexandria, attached to the Mouseion, has one obsessive goal: collect all human knowledge. Not just Greek texts, all texts from everywhere. The Ptolemies develop aggressive acquisition policies. Every ship docking in Alexandria's harbors is searched. Any scrolls found are confiscated, copied by scribes, and the copies, not the originals, are returned to the owners. The originals go into the library's collection. This is how you build the world's largest library, through scholarship, patronage, and occasional theft. Estimates of the collection size vary wildly,
from 40,000 to 700,000 scrolls. The truth is probably somewhere in between, but even the conservative estimate represents the accumulated knowledge of centuries. The scholars working here become legends. Euclid writes Elements, a geometry textbook that forms the foundation of Western mathematics for 2,300 years. Eratosthenes, the third head librarian, calculates the circumference of the Earth with stunning accuracy, an intellectual achievement unmatched for over 1,000 years. Beyond mathematics and astronomy, other scholars map the human nervous system, pioneer the first library classification systems, and develop foundational theories of physics and leverage. But perhaps the most extraordinary scholar is one you've never heard of, Hero of Alexandria. Hero teaches at the Mouseion in the 1st century AD. While Rome conquers with swords, Hero conquers with his mind. He doesn't write philosophy or poetry, he builds machines. The Aeolipile, Hero's engine, is the world's first recorded steam engine, a hollow sphere mounted on a central axis. Water inside is heated, producing steam that jets out of bent tubes, causing the sphere to spin. It's a toy, a demonstration, but it proves that steam pressure can create mechanical motion. James Watt won't build a practical steam engine until 1,800 years later. Hero designs automatic doors for temples. To the worshippers outside, the gods themselves are magically opening the gates. To Hero, it's just applied thermodynamics. Hero didn't stop at steam engines and automatic doors. He built the world's first vending machine, programmable automata, and wind-powered instruments, making 1st century Alexandria the Silicon Valley of antiquity. While Europe flumbles in the Dark Ages centuries later, Hero is building steam engines and robots. The library and Mouseion operate for centuries as the brain of civilization. Free inquiry, cross-cultural exchange, the belief that all knowledge from all peoples deserves preservation. But brains are fragile, and Rome is coming, and Rome plays by different rules.
48 BC. Julius Caesar arrives in Alexandria and steps right into a civil war between 15-year-old Ptolemy XIII and his 21-year-old sister, Cleopatra. Caesar backs Cleopatra, a brilliant, multilingual scholar of the Mouseion. In response, Ptolemy's massive army lays siege to Caesar's position in the royal quarter. Trapped with only 4,000 men against 20,000, Caesar makes a desperate military decision: burn the Egyptian fleet anchored in the Great Harbor to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. The fire spreads. Flames leap from ship to ship, then to the wooden docks, then to warehouses filled with grain and papyrus scrolls. The blaze rages out of control, consuming parts of the harbor district. Did it destroy the library? For centuries, historians believed Caesar's fire incinerated 400,000 scrolls, but the evidence is ambiguous. The geographer Strabo visits Alexandria around 20 BC and mentions the Mouseion as a functioning institution. Scholars continue working there for centuries. Modern consensus? Caesar's fire probably destroyed warehouses containing scrolls awaiting cataloging, perhaps 40,000, but the main library survived. The real damage wasn't physical, it was psychological. Caesar's fire established a precedent. Knowledge could be collateral damage in political conflicts. But Caesar's involvement in Alexandria produces something more consequential: an alliance with Cleopatra. She gives birth to Caesarion, little Caesar, their son, who will later be declared pharaoh. Caesar returns to Rome and is assassinated in 44 BC.
Antony, one of his successors, takes control of the eastern Mediterranean, and he too falls under Cleopatra's spell, though describing it as mere seduction misses the point. This is a political and military alliance between two of the most powerful people on Earth.
In 34 BC, after conquering Armenia, Antony stages a Roman-style triumph, but not in Rome, in Alexandria. The entire city is summoned to the gymnasium for the donations of Alexandria. Dressed as gods, Antony as Dionysus Osiris and Cleopatra as Isis Aphrodite distribute vast territories across the eastern Mediterranean among their children. They proclaim Caesarion as King of Kings, making a bold statement to the empire. This is the moment Alexandria almost replaces Rome as the capital of the world. Antony is openly declaring that the future of Rome lies not in the West, but here, in this hybrid Greek-Egyptian metropolis ruled by a Macedonian queen and a Roman general dressed as Eastern gods. The ceremony is a spectacular display of wealth, power, and arrogance. Tens of thousands of citizens pack the gymnasium, witnessing the spectacle on behalf of a metropolis of 600,000. The message is clear. Alexandria, not Rome, is the center of the new world order. But this hubris seals their fate. In Rome, Octavian, Caesar's heir and Antony's rival, uses the donations of Alexandria as propaganda. Antony has betrayed Rome, given away Roman territory to a foreign queen, declared allegiance to Egyptian gods. The Senate strips Antony of authority and declares war on Cleopatra. In 31 BC, Octavian defeats Antony and Cleopatra's combined fleet at the Battle of Actium. Antony and Cleopatra flee to Alexandria. As Octavian's forces approach in 30 BC, Antony commits. Days later, Cleopatra dies, probably by poisoning, not asp bite. Octavian, soon to become Augustus, the first Roman emperor, enters Alexandria victorious. Egypt becomes a Roman province, but a special one. It's the personal property of the emperor. No senator can even visit without imperial permission. The Ptolemaic dynasty, which ruled for 3 centuries, ends. Alexandria, which almost became the capital of the world, is now a possession of Rome. But tolerance is eroding, and when religious fury explodes, nothing will survive. Under Roman rule, Alexandria's population remains stable around 600,000. The city continues its role as the Mediterranean's premier port, but now it serves a new function, the Annona. The city becomes the heart of the Annona, Rome's grain dole. 1/3 of the wheat that feeds Rome's million inhabitants flows through Alexandria's harbors. If these massive grain fleets are delayed by storms, riots erupt in Rome. Rome conquers the world with legions, but Egypt feeds those legions. Alexandria literally has the Roman Empire eating from its hand. But the city's ethnic powder keg is heating up. In 38 AD, the Jewish king Agrippa I visits Alexandria. His arrival sparks violent riots between the Greek and Jewish communities. Greeks mock Agrippa, stage humiliating parodies, and desecrate synagogues. Jews retaliate. Roman authorities crack down on both communities, but the damage reveals a truth. Alexandria's celebrated diversity is a facade. The 3 communities, Greek, Jewish, Egyptian, live side by side, but increasingly hate each other. The tensions are religious, ethnic, and economic. Greeks resent Jewish commercial success. Egyptians resent Greek political dominance. Jews fear both groups.
And as Christianity spreads through the empire in the 2nd and 3rd centuries, a new fault line appears: pagan versus Christian, with Christians themselves divided between moderates and zealots. By the 3rd century AD, the library's glory days are fading. Imperial patronage decreases. Other cities build rival institutions. The Mouseion still functions, but it's no longer the undisputed brain of the world. Alexandria thrives on diversity, but diversity without tolerance is a powder keg. Rome lit the fuse in 48 BC with Caesar's fire. For 400 years, it smolders. Then, it explodes.
July 21, 365 AD. Dawn. The earth trembles. An earthquake, magnitude 8.0 or greater, strikes off the coast of Crete, 400 kilometers from Alexandria. The shaking is violent but brief. Then something terrifying happens. The sea withdraws. The Mediterranean pulls back from Alexandria's shores, exposing the seafloor. Ships rest on sand. Fish flop in the morning sun. People rush out to gather stranded sea creatures to explore this impossible landscape. The tsunami strikes Alexandria with apocalyptic force. Walls of water crash over the Heptastadium, over the harbors, over the low-lying districts. Ships are picked up and hurled inland, some found later on rooftops of buildings 2 miles from shore. 5,000 people die in minutes. The Bruchium, the royal quarter, is hardest hit. The marble palaces where Ptolemies and Cleopatras once ruled are smashed. Over the following centuries, weakened by seismic liquefaction and rising seas, the entire northeastern waterfront will gradually sink 6 meters into the Mediterranean. Cleopatra's palace disappears beneath the Mediterranean, swallowed by the sea. The tsunami doesn't destroy Alexandria, but it drowns the city's heart, the royal quarter where Cleopatra almost made Alexandria the capital of the world. Meanwhile, the Pharos Lighthouse, the wonder that has stood for over 1,000 years, begins its own slow death. Weakened by centuries of relentless seismic activity, including massive earthquakes in 1303 and 1323, the 1,600-year-old structure finally collapses. Only a broken stub remains of the tallest lighthouse ever built. The city rebuilds, but it's a diminished Alexandria, traumatized and increasingly divided by religious hatred. In 391 AD, the Christian Roman Emperor Theodosius I issues a decree: all pagan temples in the empire are to be closed or destroyed. In Alexandria, the Christian patriarch Theophilus seizes the opportunity. He incites a Christian mob to destroy the Serapeum, the great temple to Serapis, the hybrid Greek-Egyptian god. The Serapeum houses a subsidiary library, sometimes called the Daughter Library, containing thousands of scrolls. They burn it. The statue of Serapis is pulled down and hacked to pieces. The temple is demolished, stone by stone. This is the moment the Library of Alexandria dies, not from Caesar's accidental fire 400 years earlier, but from deliberate religious violence. In 415 AD, the violence reaches its ultimate expression. Hypatia, a brilliant mathematician, astronomer, and the city's most prominent intellectual, is targeted. A Christian mob, incited by Cyril, the Patriarch of Alexandria, drags Hypatia from her chariot, strips her, and tears her apart with broken pottery shards. Her dismembered body is burned. Hypatia's murder symbolizes the death of intellectual tolerance in Alexandria. The city that once invited all scholars now kills them for teaching the wrong philosophy. In 641 AD,
Arab Muslim forces conquer Alexandria. The new rulers move Egypt's capital south to Fustat, which will become Cairo. Alexandria, once the second largest city in the world, loses its political significance. Trade routes shift, the population collapses. By the late Ottoman period, Alexandria is a fishing village with 10,000 inhabitants. In 1994, underwater archaeologists Jean-Yves Emperor and later Frank Gaudio dive into Alexandria's harbor. They discover massive blocks of marble and granite, pieces of the Pharos resting on the sea floor, statues, sphinxes, columns from Hellenistic temples, the royal quarter submerged since 365 AD. The Pharos still exists. It's just underwater now, broken into 10,000 pieces scattered across the Mediterranean floor.
Those sunken stones are the physical ghost of a miracle. A city of 600,000 people, a lighthouse that stood for 1,600 years, the birthplace of the steam engine. Alexandria proved you could gather all human knowledge, build towers touching the sky, and have different cultures living side by side. But as the ashes of the Serapeum and the tragic murder of Hypatia showed us, Alexandria also proved something darker. Knowledge is fragile, tolerance is fragile, civilization itself is fragile. Alexandria didn't die from one catastrophe. It died from 1,000 cuts across 700 years, each one chipping away at what made it universal. Today, the Pharos lies underwater. The library is ash. Alexander's tomb, lost forever, never found. Cleopatra's palace, 6 meters below the Mediterranean. But the idea survives. Every library descends from Alexandria. Every lighthouse echoes the Pharos. Every attempt to gather human knowledge, from Wikipedia to the Internet Archive, is Alexandria reborn. We keep rebuilding it because we know what we lost. Alexandria did not die by a conqueror's sword. It died when its own inhabitants decided that being right was more important than preserving knowledge. If you enjoyed this, there are many more lost civilizations to explore. Tell me in the comments, which city should I reconstruct next? Until the next journey.